It's the starting five. I'm Yaron Weitzman, and this week we are here to talk about the team that thanks God every day for the existence of the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm talking, of course, about the New York Knicks. The team's season effectively ended Tuesday night with their loss to the Atlanta Hawks. This just 1 year after seemingly being back. The Knicks have gone from bing bong to ping pong. So here we are going to deliver some service journalism. Here is a 5-step guide to fixing the Knicks. Number one, take the ball out of Julius Randle's hands. We're going to start with the most simple step because it turns out Julius Randle is exactly who we thought he was. A low-effort, ball-dominant, inefficient scorer, incapable of leading a team to success. Look, we all know Randle was great last season. He was second-team All-NBA, and deservedly so. But if you peek beneath the hood, you can see that basically the only difference for his season last year and why he played so well was his ability to hit lots of contested jumpers. I'll say what a scout said to me last year. What do you value more, 7 seasons of normal basketball or 1 season during a pandemic, which is the greatest outlier of all seasons? Empty stands, weird rest days, teams not at full strength. That was the kind of ecosystem Randle needed in order to succeed. We've also seen this season that Randle can struggle at times when the seas get rough. He was seen giving fans a thumbs down. He's been fined by the NBA 4 times for various things. He's gotten in arguments with officials, even with assistant coaches. The Knicks gave Randle a big extension last summer, so it's unlikely they find a team to trade him to, meaning he's here for the long run. That means the Knicks are going to have to figure out ways to succeed with Randle around. The only way to do so is to make clear to him that the team and offense no longer revolves around him. Number 2, organizational cohesion. Yes, I know this sounds like one of those boring phrases in one of those big giant textbooks that you refuse to open while in college, but I'm bringing it up because it's important and probably Leon Rose's greatest failure since being tapped as the Knicks president in March 2020, and it's probably the greatest culprit for all the drama that's ensnared the Knicks this season. This isn't a new problem for Rose. Even in his first offseason with the team, members of his executive crew clashed with head coach Tom Thibodeau over the direction of the franchise. Thibodeau wanted the team to go for win-now veterans like Gordon Hayward. Some of Rose's lieutenants, like Brock Aller, his chief of staff, were more in favor of a rebuilding and tanking approach. Things even got ugly occasionally. I reported this at the time, but Thibodeau would start referring to Aller as Hinky, and he was doing so mockingly. Now, if this was year 3 of Rose's tenure, that would be normal. Teams often have discussions about which direction to head in. But in year 1, I think everybody coming in should be on the same page. And we've seen these issues play out again this season. We saw it with the strange Kemba Walker banishing by Tom Thibodeau. We saw it with the weird situation around Cam Reddish. The Knicks front office gave up a future first-round pick for Cam Reddish, only for Thibodeau to refuse to play him. And this has been reported elsewhere, and I can tell you as well. Thibodeau made clear to the front office that he did not want Reddish to be part of the team. Again, these are not things we normally see within a franchise. Thibodeau's stubbornness has created conflict between him and the front office. And yeah, you can find fault with some of Thibodeau's tactics, but it's unfair to blame him for being exactly who he is and who the Knicks knew they were getting when they tapped him as their head coach. That's why it's essential for the Knicks to get on the same page as their head coach. If the Knicks have any hopes of turning things around, they have to erase this disconnect. Number 3, pay RJ Barrett. Quick pop quiz. Do you know who the last Knicks first-round pick to sign a second contract with the team is? If you guessed Charlie Ward all the way back in 1994, then you got the correct answer. RJ Barrett is a player who should end this streak. He's due for an extension this summer, and the Knicks would be wise to pay up. No, he's not a perfect player. He can't really shoot, and he still struggles finishing at the rim. He's not even 22 years old. Is averaging almost 20 points a game, plays good defense, and again, he's really, really young. These are the kind of players the Knicks need to make sure they have locked up going forward. The question, of course, with these things is what is the price? I assume RJ Barrett is going to ask the max. Again, a former number 3 pick, averaging almost 20 points per game. That would be the obvious move there. And talking to different people around the league, one of the contracts that is often brought up is the 4-year, $115 million extension that Jaylen Brown, also a former number 3 pick, signed in 2019. Could something like that end up being a bit of an overpay? Sure, but RJ Barrett is young and has already proven that he's good. When was the last time the Knicks had a player who fit both those categories locked up? Number 4, find a point guard. This is far from a new problem with the Knicks, but that doesn't mean that it's not one in need of addressing. Just look at the list of the Knicks' last 12 starting point guards on opening night, and this group doesn't even include Kemba Walker last season. This, to state the obvious, is a massive, massive problem. In today's NBA, you cannot succeed if you don't have a good point guard. And if you look at every team in the league, I would say basically 23 of them have better point guards than the Knicks, if not more. The Knicks cannot enter next season with Alec Burks as their starting point guard. They also can't rely on Derrick Rose. He was great last year, but he's an injury risk. And while Emmanuel quickly has shown flashes, 1, I'm not quite sure he's a point guard, and 2, he's probably best suited in a role off the bench. The one issue for the Knicks going forward is that they do not have major cap space. That, however, doesn't mean that they can't find a guy either via a sign and trade or a straight up trade. There are a few names worth watching. Colin Sexton from the Cavs is probably available. Also, there's Jalen Brunson, whose father, Rick, was Leon Rose's first client, and the two families remain extremely close. That's an obvious name to keep an eye on, but there also will be other guys out there who the Knicks can target. Whether it's Sexton, Brunson, or somebody else, I can assure you the Knicks will go nowhere unless they finally find a way to plug this hole. Number 5, lottery luck. Though, if we're being honest, the only true way for the Knicks to truly be fixed is if a certain someone decides to sell a certain team. I, however, as a media member, value my credential to Madison Square Garden and therefore would never dare say such a thing. So instead, I'll hide behind this one-time New York Daily News cover. Aside from that, though, what I think this team truly needs is some lottery luck. Aside from that, I just don't see how they're going to get a star. There's no impending free agent, no star who's going to be disgruntled and demand a trade to New York, or even if one does, it's unlikely that any team is going to look at the Knicks package and say, yeah, that's what I want to trade my guy for. I'm looking at the Utah Jazz and Donovan Mitchell and Danny Ainge. That leaves the lottery. As you can see up on the screen, the Knicks are now projected to have the 11th pick in the draft, which gives them just an 11.7% chance of leaping into the top 4. Yeah, they can start tanking over the next 10 games, but there are a bunch of teams who are way ahead of them in that regard. That said, we've seen teams make major leaps in the lottery before. It's been a while since the Knicks have had some lottery luck. Maybe their time has finally come. That's the starting 5. I'm Yaron Weitzman. For more NBA coverage, be sure to check out the Fox Sports app.